stuck in my feelings these days. I've been up in my bedroom nowadays. Even with the sun shining so bright, I wait till stars come at night, so I could dream about you tonight. Truth is, I'm a little bit hesitant to hit you up. I get more scared as a day I'm grown up. This ain't a hookup, we could just burn up. I feel you so close up. I'm so sorry if I close up the
your day, all the highs and lows you faced. Wanna see behind your hopes and fears. 'Cause even when we say goodnight. I'm awake with questions I wanna ask to make your mystery clear. Oh, my heart is aching, but I finally found the cure. If you're a breaking wind, maybe I could be the shore.
It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, the pastor here with the Lost Sheep of Israel and with King James Bible University. And today we have a very interesting teaching that we're going to be doing today. But before we do, we want to let out some of the information and some announcement that we do have. Because what I do want people to understand is that we will be coming to San Antonio. And as we come into San Antonio, we're going to be doing a baptism. Also, we're going to be running a blockchain there. So we're going to be having that. And if you are interested or if you're just going to be attending that, you are more than welcome. You have to send an email to baptism@kjbu.org, and we'll be more than happy to provide the information that's needed. And you can, if you're looking to be baptized, I'm going to be taking care of some of that in 1 minute about some of the issues that people have had. Actually, I'll go ahead and take care of it now. And sometimes some people have found out why they can't figure out why they don't get the responses that they want, or favors or things that they need that we provide over here at the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel and with King James Bible University. And one of the biggest things that we do have is that people will come over. And one of the biggest things is it don't hurt to say shalom, good morning, hi, whatever it is. In this way, we know exactly who you are because we'll see you all the time. So then when you need letters for providing for whatever you need it for, and it need to come through someone like myself, I have no issues in doing that. The problem becomes is people like to stay in what we call the cut. They like to stay in there and they don't say hi or anything, but then send emails to us and they ask us to do these things for them, and we never seen them. They say, well, I've been listening to you for this amount of time. It don't matter because we still don't know who you are. So many people can say, I know you, but we don't. So if you don't sit there and you don't come in there, as we always said, and a closed mouth don't get fed. And if we don't know who you are, you like to stay in the cut and do those certain things, then that's so be it. The same thing as I hold myself to the same identical standard. This is why you see when I go to the other elders channels, the deacons channels, the evangelist channels, and I come in, I will say shalom. I say shalom to anyone. But what we're going to do is people who they say they can't do it, they can't say shalom or whatever, that's where when we end up having those issues, when you start looking for those type of needs or things to that nature, some people feel that they're too big, they too famous or what, I don't know what it is, because it don't hurt to come in to say hi. Don't hurt to come in to say peace to you. Shalom. That don't hurt anyone. But when sometimes people will get up on their high horse and they feel they don't have no need to say that. So these things become issues. We also have, during our regular, every day, we do have our daily prayer. And if you look to be on that prayer list, the same thing goes again. Many people have put in prayer requests. 99% of them always been filled. The thing is, we have people who like to come up with these made-up names. And people, then they say they've been watching us or they know me for years. But people, if you know me and you know what I'm about, you know I have a hatred. And I don't say I dislike, I have a hatred for made-up names. I have a hatred for that. Because what happens is we have one that sent in a name and then they caught it. And once it was caught, they told me about the name. And that's a matrix name. And what they did, then they end up telling them that this is their name. But it don't matter. When people is looking to deceive, we would have actually put a prayer in for a deceiver. And I don't do those. So when you want to do a prayer, use your actual name. If your name is that email name and it's a fake name, you tell what your name is. But when you come in, always make people know who you are. It's a bad thing for that to happen. Because even when I went out of town once, me and my wife, I had to take her up there to take care of some business. And there was a guy there, I knew him in L.A., and he told me his name was Adam. And he said, look him up when I get up there to where me and my wife was going to Atlanta. We get up in Atlanta, and I looked up at him. I went over to his place of business, and even everybody told me they don't know of no Adam. And until the landowner who owned that spot down there, he seen me looking, and for whatever reason he was there. he ended up, he asked me who I was looking for, and I told him Adam. And I know that's where, that's his office right here. He said, no, that's not, Adam is here. Adam decided to walk up. And he walks up, and I said, yeah, this is Adam right here. He said, no, his name is not Adam. He told me his real name. Right then, I cut ties. And I've been knowing him for about 2 years, but I cut ties right there because that is a deceiver. But he told me I go by that name because Adam was the first man. But he deceived the same thing because anything could have been transpiring between then. And later on, if he needs to cut ties, all that we have to do is be looking for Adam. Same as that man said he didn't know who Adam was. But I was known to him as my name, but he known to me as Adam. So that's why I don't play with false names. You've got a false name, and many camps and places like that, they run these names, and I don't have the time for it. We also have, I believe he closed it. And he can let us know in the chat if you need to. But he did have classes that he was running for the precept, and if you want to learn how to precept the Bible, Elder Pittman has a class running that he's teaching people how to precept the Bible. And he takes his time, and he's very clear. If you ever hear his teachings, you need to go over there to Line Upon Line by KJBU. You need to go there and hear this elder speak, because he's extremely clear, and he's making sure you understand what's going on. We also have where we're going to be coming up with this 12-tribe chart, Deceive the World. We're going to be coming in with that because it still has to be completely put to rest. The picture itself shows you exactly what it is. Then you need 12 different ships showing which each and every person, each and every camp should be getting on what ship. But we have people so deceived. That's what they do. They do this right here. And people believe that's how it actually works. And it's crazy. The picture itself showing you what they're saying, but you can see itself. It's crazy. So those are the announcement that I have. But we just want to make sure that everybody understand what's going on. So again, I want to welcome everyone here. And as we continue to move, we come to the point to where we looking at the 7 churches that are in Asia. Interesting topic. And we had to go through sometimes some other little trainings as we did through some of the weeks. We had to do some other trainings to make sure we're prepared to go through these cities. This city is no joke. This city is no joke. Sardis. I'm going to tell you what it means later, but Sardis is not one to be played with. So we come to this point, and we here. So we got to learn some things, and we're going to learn a lot of methodologies and how things is going through and getting a better understanding. But many of our works, and the reason I had to do some of these teachings in between, and actually I have one other teaching actually before I do apologize. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, we have a very interesting breakdown going to be going on in KJBU. We're going to be looking at how to see the breakdown of self-righteousness, and we're going to look at fasting. Fasting and self-righteousness, they play a part together, but we have to look at that. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't want to miss anything, this one you don't want to miss. It's going to be at King James Bible University at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Central time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. So please make sure you can make it. But now we come to this point as we looking at this here. As we looking at this point here. And we have found that many of us is having issues. that a lot of our things has not been found correctly. And what do I mean by that today? Many of our works we had looked at, and many of our works that we depends on, we have found that our works is not right. Meaning this. God has found many of us not being righteous with him. And since we have not been righteous with God, we have a problem within ourselves. One second, I have a little bit of an issue here. So what we're looking at is that as we have seen our bodies and what they're doing, our bodies is not being perfect with God. Even when Yahushua or Jesus, whatever name you prefer to use, he returned to Capernaum, and it was reported that he was at someone's home. But we're going to see that's not the actual truth. We're going to find out that also. And there we were collected together in a multitude. There was no longer any place to receive others because of the multitude of people that was there. And there he proclaimed something. He proclaimed the word was with them. This is what he was proclaiming. That one that was brought in, he even was suffering from palsy. So as he was suffering, they couldn't get in. So what happened? They ended up going up on top of the roof, and they removed the ceiling from above. And once they did, they lowered him down into a bed. In this bed, down there in the bed, and his patient was lying there with palsy. Yahushua is watching them as they doing it. He's watching them. And once he has got down, he said this. He said, "Son, thy sins be thou forgiven." But among those who was listening, we have to remember this, and this is where it's getting important, and why we see it's a mixed multitude. Because who was listening was some scribes and Pharisees. And we're going to see this. We're going to see it in 1 second. And what they was doing, they was murmuring amongst themselves, and they inquiring to themselves, and why do this guy preach blasphemy? This is what they want to know. Why is he talking this blasphemy stuff? They want to know this. Because they were saying, can't nobody else pardon sin? No one. So the catch is this, and I'm going to ask you a question to where you can answer within yourself. Is it simpler, even for myself or anyone, is it simpler to tell a palsy patient that remembers their sins? Is it simpler that he or she sins be forgiven? Or would it have been better to tell him or her to get up out their bed and start walking? See, if I say unto thee, arise and take up thy bed and go thy way from thy home, for I'm speaking to some, but then some can understand what is a servant and the power of it that's on the earth that can forgive sins. But do you know what power was speaking to them? Or was it a parable based on the spoken language? That's the key. See, a believer will immediately get up and pick up his bed and walk. And lead the way in front of many people. But many people will be astounded and praise God, saying they never saw it on his fashion. And it's the same way that Yahushua, when he went by the sea and the multitude of flocks heard him say. And as they gave him this reception of the customs, and then you had Alphaeus, he told him to follow him. He got up and decided to go with him. So we have to start looking at this, and we want to understand a lot of things that's happening here. So as we get here, 1 second, it's hanging up again. And let me see. There we go. We got it now. So we're gonna pick this up here. We're gonna look at we're gonna look at Mark chapter 2, but we want to start right there at verse 15. You can see it right there. Right there. We want to sit there and see something. It says, and it came to pass, as Yahushua sat at meat in his house, and many publicans and sinners sat also together with Yahushua, and he said in his disciples, for there were many, and they followed him. This is what we want to pay attention to. This is why it's going to get so important. Because what he was doing, he was speaking to them about the commandments of God and the promises. We're going to find all this out. Because he's telling us something that was key, that was here. And we want to look at these things and really understand them. Because when he was doing it, it's telling you right up front, it said he sat at meat. He sat at meat. And when it's M-E-A-T, it's the giving of bread. Many people are going to hold it different ways, but it's giving of bread or doctrine and understandings. That's what he's doing. That's why he says sat at meat. And we can find these things. We'll start looking at them. And you'll see what he was doing here. You're going to see what is going on. And we're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 6. And we're going to start right there at verse 1 and find out a lot more here. We're going to find out a lot more here. It says, now these are the commandments, the statutes and the judgments, which the Spirit of your God commanded to teach you. Commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go to possess it. You see how he's labeling this. So these commandments and these statutes and these judgments, which the Spirit of God had commanded to teach, that we will do them to wherever we go, to where we can possess it. That's the key. Verse 2. It goes on a little bit more. It says, that thou mightest fear to desire the Spirit of thy God, to keep all the statutes and his commandments which I command thee, including thy sons, sons, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged. So we need to understand to where we need to desire the Spirit of our God, keep his statutes, his commandments, which he commanded us. See, our desires should be towards the Spirit of God's, keeping his statutes, meaning his similitudes, in which it includes the commandments, which is the instructions, the precepts, and desires. These are the things that is there, and the things that God commanded by the mouth of Moses. And we're to keep those commandments all the days of our lives. It was a quote here in Hebrews 13:8. And I want to highlight that in Hebrews 13:8, just so we can remember. Just so we can remember some of these things. It says this here. It says, Yahushua the Messiah, but I'm going to read it spiritually after I do it. It says the same yesterday, today, and forever. That's what it says. But we want to look at it for what it's actually saying. We want to see it for what it's saying. It's saying salvation of the anointed path is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That's what it actually says. That's what it's actually telling us. That's why it's so important. And we get down here in verse 3, because it's the same yesterday, today, and forever. It's never going to change, so only time it changes is when people changes it. But we're going to look at this in verse 3. It says, here for that reason, therefore, O Israel, including observe to do it. That's a full thought that's right there. It said that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, comparing the Spirit of your God of thy fathers have promised thee in the land that floweth with milk and honey. You see how he's putting this? This is clear as day. And we want to understand all what he's talking about, because he's telling us some things that's promised to us. A land that's flowing with milk and honey. That's what's promised to us. Let's dig this a little bit deeper. Actually, we don't even have to go here, so we're already here. So we're going to look at Genesis chapter 49, but we want to look at verse 2. It's already here. And it's telling us, it says, gather yourselves together and hear ye sons of Jacob. Understand what he's saying. This is a fleshly man that you can see, and we're gonna get some real clear understanding on this. And as he's saying, gather yourselves together, hear ye sons of Jacob. Now you see this as a forethought there. So we know these men is according to the flesh, are the sons of Jacob. According to the flesh, these are sons of Jacob. But he says, and hearken unto Israel, which is a spirit, your father. You see how he called us. He called us even here. He called us right here. And the reason why, and I'm going to tell you the reason why this is getting a little bit real carry. We got to get over here to Sardis, because we are to observe the statutes, the commandments, if we seek the promise of Israel, to where we can increase in his land, because the land is body and where it flows with milk. The milk is the wealth, being fruitful, and the honey is the sweetness and nourishment. That's what it is, as he had promised unto our fathers. This is why it's so important. Let's go down here to verse 4. Let's look at it a little bit more. We'll keep going down in Deuteronomy chapter 6, but we're going to look at just verse 4. This is the mix-up that a lot of people are going to find out, and then they try to switch it up. It says, hear, O Israel, Jehovah's servants. Hear, O Jehovah's servants. The Spirit of your God is one Spirit of God, one Lord. He's one. But people will tell you he's wrapped up into three, and he's not. He's one. And this is where the problem at. Because the Spirit of God is one, and the problem we have is same thing where Paul says the same identical things on what people have got caught up in. And when they get caught up in it, they come up with these same cliches. These same cliches. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, looking at verse 5, it tells you, it says, for though they are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, comparing there be gods many and lords many. Tell me. It's right here. It's right here, and we're looking right at it. And lords is nothing but rulers. So we got gods many and rulers many. And these gods is idols, and that's what people do. They put these men up, and they put them up as idols. And they can sit there and tell you whatever they want. I don't care what anyone tell you. When they sitting there and they going inside of a building, and they telling you this man, they don't worship. That's a lie. I don't care how you look at it. They can tell you out of their own mouth. They can tell you out of their own mouth, but I promise you, they're going to do the actions as if he is a God. I don't care. So I don't care how you look at it, how you flip it out, or how you script it out. Let's look at something. I'm going to show you something. We're going to go over here to 1 Peter. The way you can't even get around it, and it's just showing you exactly what's going on. In 1 Peter chapter 5, but we're going to look at verse 3. It says, neither comparing being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. So, if they being examples to the flock, why are you giving this man or this woman money? A gift. Love tokens. You're doing what he tell you to do. It's a being examples to the flock. I'm only pausing just so you can really kind of just let that marinate in your mind for a minute. You're God's heritage, but you're giving gifts to this man. So this is why I say people can say whatever they want to say. They can say it however they want. They can make it come out however they want. The bottom line is this. One, if you giving this man any types of money, that he's sitting there that way he need to have money to where he can live, or you feel that you should be giving him something where they use those same type of lies, don't muzzle the ox that shredded the corn, and they use that lie in the scriptures is 100% true, and it's not even talking about money, then you are 100% deceived and you treating that man as God. And if you were going to sit there and say he's not God, then tell you what you do. Then ask him, what bank do God bank at? I guarantee you he can't tell you. But you're going to give this man's money, and then you won't even give this man what he said. You got to give God his 10%. Ask him what God bank at. You'll go make the payment yourself. He'll say, well, I'll pay it. No, okay, no. I tell you, that's okay. I'm going to make sure it get there. I've been behind for about 15 months. I need to go make a big payment. See, these are things to where you can find out what is the truth. These are the things where we can look at and really see what is happening when people, anyone sitting there giving these places money. But we want to look at this all together in Exodus chapter 23, and we're going to look at something in verse 8. Because it tells you this. It says, thou shalt take no gift. Don't take no gift. If you teaching the word of God, don't be taking no gifts. For the gift, that money, blindness the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. That's why you have people who give big money. They control a lot of stuff that goes on in the churches that they call the houses of God, which they're not. That's why they do that. That's why they're capable of getting away with that. Because they can sit there, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. And if they're a big giver, they're going to control a lot what goes on in that church. People can sit there and say, no, it don't, and I can show you it do all the time. In Deuteronomy chapter 16, picking up at verse 19, and this is why it's so important to where we understand more so, because before we get to Sardis, I'm going to tell you something. This is rampant. This ain't soft. This is rampant. And look at this in Deuteronomy. And this is telling us right here in 16 verse 19. It says, thou shalt not rest judgment, meaning any doctrine or teaching, thou shalt not respect person. Thou shalt not respect person. What you going to respect somebody for? Giving them the word of God, but then you're going to watch how you deliver it to them. If God has chosen certain people to deliver his word, which he has done, and he chose them for the way that they own delivery methods. Some going to deliver it to you a little bit with some massage into it to where you can stomach it a little bit better. Some going to be a little bit harder. Some going to be a little bit more aggressive. Not in trying to make you do something, but telling you exactly what you're doing is wrong. They're not going to be talking directly to you, because all we got to do is speak the word. And if that rock hits you, don't get mad at the one who delivered the message. I tell you what, the same thing you do with an envelope. An envelope brings you a bill. Do you fuss at the envelope, or you fussing at the bill? The envelope is the messenger that brought it to you. So don't get mad at the envelope. Don't get mad at the envelope. Look at the message. Understand the message. But we see right here, it says, in taking no gift, that it says, pervert the words of the righteous. That's one. But then you look at Deuteronomy, it says, and thou shalt not rest judgment, thou shalt not respect person, neither take a gift, for the gift doeth blindeth the understanding of the wise, the eyes of the wise, the understanding of, including pervert the words of the righteous. It's going to make you pervert those words. It's going to make you pervert them. Automatically, what are you going to do? These are things that we look at. And we got to understand a couple of things that's here. We're going to see something, because when he put us out to pasture, he put certain men there. These men are there to do a job. But you see women. I'm talking about, I've seen where they got 5-year-old kids saying they're out there teaching the word of God. And people listening to them. I'm talking about foolish on top of foolish. Let's look at something in Exodus chapter 34. And I want to show you something in verse 31. It's right here. It says, "And ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture are men. I am your God, saith the Spirit of God." And they got, I done seen them where they got 5, 6, 11-year-old boys. People listening to. Little boys doing this. So when you look at this and we look at some history, and people gonna continue to he's got this, and all you gotta do is question him. You'll find out the kid don't know anything. They just put him up. But these flock of these men, these are men, and all these men, we made an agreement with God. So this is why when you giving these men gifts, this is why I say, don't come giving me no money. You wasting my time. You're gonna give me something to eat? That's cool. Give me coffee? That's cool. But don't give me something to where, let me give him $1,000. Let me give him $500. No. That's all wrong altogether. Because the flock of his pasture are men. And it's saying, "For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder," which is talking about Christ, "when he went out early in the morning to hire laborers," which is us, "unto his vineyard, unto his field, to his pasture," what we just seen right there. And this is what he did. This is what he did. Verse 2. And it says, "When he had agreed with the laborers, us, for a penny a day," for 1 penny a day, 1 penny a day, 1 penny a day. That's what our agreement. I don't know what part we're missing here. "The flock of his pasture of men," and we all agreed upon that penny. The penny. From him, not from his people, not from his flock, not from his servants, not from any one of his people. We got to get the penny from him. He hired us. And this is why it even said again, it says again right here. We can look right at here in Jeremiah. This is why makes it so clear. Jeremiah chapter 3, picking it up at verse 15, says this, and it's extremely clear. We use this a lot over here. And he telling you right up here, right up front. Because this is what gives him the ability, this is what gives God the ability to say this statement here by the mouth of Jeremiah. It says, "I will give you pastors according to my heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding." Because what he did, he hired laborers, and we agreed for a penny a day to go out there and pastor his flock. Not to be shepherds of his flock, but to pasture them, to feed them. This is what they're for. Anything else is a lie. I don't care if any pastor tell you he is a shepherd for Satan. I don't care who he is. You can be your husband, your uncle, your brother, you. Doesn't matter. If you call yourself a shepherd, you are a shepherd for Satan. You are not a shepherd for God, because God only has one. And them is the one who gonna have the pure hearts to go out to feed. These feeders. This is why it's so important. This is why it's so important. Let's drop down a minute. See, because you got some they don't have a pure heart. Some of them don't. And they came in to where they had an issue with God. Because they didn't want the penny. They just wanted to get in. They just wanted to get in the door, and then they're going to create their own righteousness. So when some of them, and it's telling you right up front, it says, and when they came, in verse 9, it says, and when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. Right there in Matthew chapter 20, verse 9. Clear. They received a penny. But the problem is not that. The problem some of these guys have a problem with. Because some people, they're gonna sit there, well, I've been preaching for 50 years. I've been preaching for 80 years. I've been preaching for 15 years. They're gonna come up with these issues. And this guy getting the same thing I got. This is the issue. Let's look at this. Verse 10. But the first came, they supposed that they should have received more. Just full thought. They felt they should have got more. I should have got a lot more than that guy. I've been out here preaching for years. Really? Really? Let's go down. He should but it said receive more. And likewise receive every man a penny. Let's look at verse 11, then we're going to look at this. It says, and when he had received it, they murmured against the good man. They murmured against Christ. I don't care how we look at it, how we flip it, how we script it. So they said this, and then we're going to talk. Saying, this last have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden of the heat of the day. All of a sudden, your poop don't stink because you've been out there longer. Your job changed because you've been out there longer. All this stuff changed because you feel you should get more. And we agreed for a penny a day. This where shadiness comes in at. See, this is where evil seeks in at. See, because when they said they're talking about they had bored this, they talking about they had bored something, they talking about they had carried this burden. It tells you right there. I'm gonna show it to you. Because it said which have bore the burden. So they carried this burden. I'm telling you, you can't even make this stuff up. It's impossible to make this stuff up. Any man out there saying he's feeding the flock of God and he's getting money, he's holding this. He can say he's not, but he's holding this. He's sitting there saying he's borne the burden of God. So I need more. I need more than that penny. God, that ain't God. No, that ain't gonna work. No, I agreed on the way in, but I didn't know it had this much work. So I changed the price. I'll tell you what, think about this. How many people, you can sit there and say yes or no as I continually talk. I'm not going to look in the chat, but I'm just going to say this. How many people have hired a contractor and he sat there and he looked at the job, he's seen the job, and then he give you a price on the job, and then once you have the set prices all nailed down on the contract, and then he goes in there, and then all of a sudden he want to change the price on you because he's sitting there saying, it's more work than I thought it was. He changed the price on you. He want to change the price, and he don't want to hold to the contract. He don't now want to hold to the contract. Oh, it's more work than I anticipated. Bro, didn't you look at the job? Y'all looked at it. Okay, so what's the issue? Well, it's more than I anticipated, Saul. Really? What you changing the price for? Why are you changing the price? What you should do is suck it up. You suck it up. You made the agreement. You went and looked. You came back, gave me a price. I agree with it. Now I'm willing to pay it. Now you don't want. Now it's more work than I anticipated. So, really, whose fault is that? But let's move on. Let's move on, because this is what preachers do. This is what preachers had. This is what all these preachers have done with God. All of them. But it tells you this. Verse 13, but they answered one of them and said, friend. See, this is Christ talking about it. Friend. I did thee no wrong. Doeth thou not agree with me for a penny? Didn't we agree upon this? Remember we was up in there in the room, we agreed on this. We sat there and hashed it out. We spoke about it. And didn't we agree upon this penny? So This would need to happen with the contractor, the same as Christ did here. He says, take that thine is, go thy way, and he said, I will give unto the last even as unto thee. The same comparing unto you. Don't you ever walk up on me telling me what I need to give people. Don't you come to me telling me what I should do, people. See, this is what people thinking they poop don't stink. They think I've been out there for 15 years. Okay, if we all agreed on this price and you didn't like the price, then you shouldn't have took the job. It's that simple. See, they earned a penny, but now they want more. This is why they take up those offerings. And then they think it's unlawful for God to even do that. And it's not even theirs. It's not even their money. Is that if you agreed upon a penny and then he decided to pay somebody else the same penny, do that make God evil? Paying you what you agreed upon? All because he made good on everything that he was paying out? And he agreed with them others? The same thing? If the job, tell you a short story. Gotta tell you this. Same thing with my father. And most people know who he is. I talk about him here and there. Every now and then I talk about my dad. And he was a contractor out in the world. And me and my brother and them, we'll go out, we'll work for him here and there. And one thing, we'll go out there, and he had a deal, and it's rampant in that field. It's rampant. And the thing is, if he sit there and say, this job right here pays $250, and me and my brother have did jobs for him, that it's a $250 job, where me and him would do the work. And sometimes that work might take me and my brother, as the trucks come and everything else, me and my brother might finish sometime in an hour and a half, 2 hours. As even with my father. Do he diminish the $250? No, he gives us the $250. The same as he did, even his other men. If they went out there and did a one-man job and that job took them an hour, or it took them 8 hours, they got the same $250. It doesn't matter. If it took them an hour, it was $250. If it took them 5 hours, they got $250. If it took them 9 hours, then they got a little bit more. It clicks over more. Because the agreement was for an 8-hour job. So if it took from 1 hour to 8 hours, they got the same identical payment, no matter what. How do I know? My brother and I used to do it all the time. Not just for him, for other people. Once that agreement came, if it took an hour or if it took 8 hours, we got the same identical thing. Because that was the agreement. But you have people, these shady, low-down, dirty dog preachers, don't agree with this. So what they did is this. Let's look at this. And he tells you this in verse 15. He said, is it not lawful for me to do what I will with my own? He's telling you, I do what I want to do with my money. Excuse me. I do what I want to do with my money. If I want to pay him the same I'm paying you, I'm going to give it to him. Who are you? Who are you? This is the problem with people. This is self-righteous in you. And he's telling you, it says, is thy eye evil because I'm good? He's telling you right up front, am I evil? We sitting there, we have a problem. But here we go, verse 16. So the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. The first last. And for many be called, few are chosen. That's why it works that way. Many are called, few are chosen. So the main problem is this. Many are called, few are chosen. Always worried about the next person. Always worried about what somebody. You out there working, but you worried about what JoJo get. You out there working for already agreed upon price. You out there worried about what JoJo get. You doing your job, but you worried about JoJo. I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way on this. We worried about JoJo. Okay. This is for the very reason the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So this is why they seek justice. This is why this world seeks justice. I want to explain to you what justice is. I want to so you can clearly get what justice is. See, cause what they do as they go out and they're going to feed this flock. They feed the flock, calling themselves they're going to feed the flock of God. And the Bible tells you don't do it for filthy lucre. They're going to do it for filthy lucre. Actually, it tells you this here. We're going to come back to it, but I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing. And we're going to come back. We're going to 1 Peter chapter 5. And it's telling you right here. 1 Peter chapter 5. Actually, it's already highlighted. It says, feed the flock of God which is among you, taking oversight there, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre. Don't do it for that. Because filthy is menstruous. Like a woman having a menstrual cycle, it's menstruous. That's what that actually means. Filthy, it's menstruous. It's flowing unclean lifestyle. Filthy. That's what that is. It's a flowing unclean lifestyle. This is the problem. And it's lucre for profit and justification. That's why it says filthy lucre. It's for profit, justification. They call themselves going to justify what went on. They're going to justify what went on. This is why it's so important to make sure we do it. That's why it's so important we understand what is going on. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, let's look at verse 5. Let's go down a little bit. And look at it a little bit better. It says, thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart, including all thy soul, and with all thy might. That's how we're supposed to love him. So look at it this way, the way you can get a very clear understanding, because the love is the promise. So think about it. If you promise the Spirit of God that you are going to be obedient to his voice, then do so. That's the catch. Let your yea be yea and let your nay be nay. Look at it another way. Because when you make a vow with God, we got to understand this. When we make the vow with God, we got to understand a couple of things. In Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21, this is going to make it so much clearer for each and every one of us to help us understand exactly what we need to be doing. And you see this here, and it's telling us a little bit more. Let me make sure this is highlighted. 1 second. So, it says, when thou shalt vow a vow unto the Spirit of thy God, unto the Spirit of your God. So when you vow a vow to God, when you make this vow to God, thou shalt not slack to pay it. For the Spirit of thy God will surely require it of thee. If you didn't sit there and say, I promise I'm going to love the Lord thy God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength, as you see right over there, you made a vow. Don't be slack to pay it. I'm telling you, we can't, it says, surely require it of thee. Why he's telling you this? It's telling you, let me show you something. Go right back to it. I hate to pull up all this law on us, but sometimes you don't know. We are a stiff-necked, hard-headed people. In Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12, all I'm gonna do is highlight this. That's it. In Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12, it says, now Israel, What do the Spirit of God require of thee? We made a vow. Don't be slack to pay it. We made a plain, straight vow, and he said, and thou shalt pay it. For he should surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. So if we don't pay the vow, it's sin. Hopefully we getting this. See, when we looking at things a certain way and we hold stuff up and think we can go and we can make a vow with people and we can get away with it. No, we playing with the wrong one. We playing with God, the creator of all things. And he tells us this in Ecclesiastes in chapter, we're going to look at chapter 5, but we're going to look at verse 4 first. It says, when thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he have no pleasure in fools. So if you ain't paying your vow to him, you are a fool. And don't you know people get mad when you call them a fool? If you defer not to pay your vow with God, he have no pleasure in fools. Because you're a fool. You gonna play. I'm telling you, do people really understand who they messing with when they messing with God? It ain't little Kiki down the street. But people think they messing with little Kiki. It says, pay that which thou hast vowed. You playing with the boy. Let me do this. Let me do this before I get mad. Verse 5. It says, better is it that thou shouldest not vow than thou vow and should not pay. Exactly the point. Exactly the point. You see, he's saying this out of this. When he coming out of here with his people, you make sure that these things is done. You make sure these things is done. Don't sit there and play with this as it is. Don't sit there and play with things as it is. This is why it's so important to, if you vow a vow, and you sit there and you do these things, you're going to be held accountable by God. Once you vow this vow by God, you are going to be held accountable by God. If you never plan to pay a vow, have you ever seen people like these New Year resolutions? People there do them every year. They'll say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But then they never pay it because they made a vow to themselves. And they don't even pay their own vow. Okay, the Most High is saying this. Don't vow to me. Don't you vow to me. And you not planning on paying it. Because if you vow to be obedient to me, then you better pay that vow. Let's look at it a little bit more. And let's look at it a little bit more, because we can be on that part. We'll get stuck there. It says, and all these words which I command thee this day, thou shalt be in thy heart. So all this stuff got to be in our heart. It got to be there. It has to be there. So it's based on your true self within the words of God. It's based on your true self in the words of God, on what you plan on doing. It's based on your true self. And God will be revealed within you and will show you openly. So the truth is hidden treasures in your heart and in your body. And God, when God seeks for man who is seeking eternal life and to be obedient towards his word, is them the ones that he's going to make sure he reveal himself to. He's right up front. He's very upfront about what he's talking about all the time. So it's not complex. Actually, let's go down. I got to clear this one. I don't know why it does that. Let me clear this page and go back to it. I don't know why it did that. So what we want to do, we're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And it says, including, this is what Yahweh said, this is what Jesus was teaching them. It says, including thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt talk to them when thou sittest in thy house, including when thou walkest in the way, and when thou liest down, including when thou risest up. He wants this to be on your mind. Why? Because eternal salvation is on the line. So this should be your main focus. Tell you something. Even with Elder Jenkins, he was doing something. He had to do something this past week, and he was geared up. He was geared up, and then he went, did what he had to do, and passed it with flying colors. Flying colors, he passed it. And then all of a sudden, he said he felt this big weight just dropped off. But he did this thing, they were talking about it was like it was perfect. Because he was so geared up. He was why? Because he knew he wanted to make sure he's going to finish this thing out. Because he do it once, he's good. He's good until he's out of here. That's the difference. Those are the different things to which he did. He was wired up. He was wired up for the job he had to do, because he already made a vow to himself that I'm going to get through this. So the same thing here. We got to make a vow unto God. We make sure we teach this, and this is constantly on our mind. And he's always playing this in his head, always playing it. Eternity is on the line. So this is why it's saying, he says, so teach them diligently unto thy children when I talk to them, and when I sitteth in thy house, including when thou walkest in the way, and when thou liest down, including when thou risest up. This is supposed to be on you, because eternity is on the line. So these are the doctrines, the understandings, and we are to teach our children. These are the followers. See, because the children are going to follow the mama and daddy. The children is the followers. They're going to be the mama, and they're going to follow whatever you're doing. Talk to them when you sit in there. By the way, teach them the words from God, his desires, his promises, to be obedient to his voice. They look in the scriptures, they can see it. When I lieth down, when I getteth up. Teach that to them. In fact, even better yet, let's go down a little bit more. Let's go down to verse 8. It says, and thou shalt bind them for a sign. Bind them for a sign upon thy hand, that power, and thou shalt be the frontlets between thy eyes. You see how he's saying it? He's making sure that we getting it. So when Yahweh sat with them at meat, giving them the bread, the doctrines and the understandings, that the God of Israel, is for us to bind this stuff, to yoke and join yourself to these understandings for a sign. This is the signs for the testimonies and evidence upon us, showing the power and the glory of God. That's what this is for. This is why when he was sitting with them at meat, he's breaking this down to them. He's breaking all this down to them to show them what's happening. So let's look at this a little bit better. Let's go over here into 1 Peter. Let's look at something 1 Peter. 1 Peter, and we're going to see a little bit more. 1 Peter chapter 4, picking it up in verse 14. Verse 14 says this. It says, wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them the same excess of writing and speaking evils of yours. Yeah. Why? Let's look at it. Let's look at 1 Peter, and we're going to jump down to 14. And I probably give them to it out of the way, so don't worry about it, because we need 4 there, because we got to see what's going on. So I'm just pulling from where we're getting some pieces, and we're going to see what's happening. So it's saying, providing ye be reapproached for the ways, for the way of Christ, happy is ye, for the spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. on their part, he is evil spoken of. But on your part, he is glorified. One second. Okay, sorry about that. So we got to understand this. So we got to bind these up, and we got to keep this on the front list of our eyes. The front list of our eyes, and so we're gonna be reapproached for this stuff. But the main thing, what he's telling you, we're gonna be evil spoken of on their side. We're gonna be evil spoken of on that side, but on his eyes, his way, we're going to be glorified. Let's look at something. We're going to go back over here to Acts and pull some more with this. Acts chapter 1, we're going to look at verse 8. Because he's telling you, this is why on his eyes you're going to be glorified. But ye shall receive power after the separated body is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea, and in Samaria, including unto the uttermost parts of the earth. This is what he's telling you what's going to happen. He's telling you this right up front. What is going to happen? When this Holy Ghost has come upon you, this is what's going to happen. But it's not for everybody. This is not a thing for everybody. Because some people not going to even take the reapproaching. They're not going to even look at people to reapproach them. So these are the same ones. It's not for them because they're not going to hold to what God is holding, want you to hold to. In John chapter 1 and verse 12, in verse 11, it tells us this. Make sure this is clear for us. It says, he came into his own, and this is what he did. He came into his own, and his own received him not. He came into his own. And the reason why he came into his own, let's look at something. I want to put a couple of things together. Real quick. Let's go to Genesis. And we're going to go to 2, but we're going to really want 1, and we want 127. We want Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. We want this one. So he came unto his own because God did something. He did something, and I want to show you this. And it's telling us right here, as we look at it. It says, so God created man in his own image. In the image God created he him, male and female created he them. That's what he did. And when he did that, he came into his own. He came to his own. And we're supposed to be doing something. And it's telling us right here in verse 12, and I'm going to pull another part in here. It says, but comparing as many received him, to them he gave power, that Holy Ghost, to become servants of God, even to them that believed on his name. Why is it saying it this way? Because it's making all the sense in the world. Because what he's telling you is this. He created them, male and female, and once he did this, we got to make sure we're following something because he created us in his image. In his image. And he tells us this in Exodus chapter 6, picking it up at verse 7. And he did this, and it's here. He says, and I will take you to me for a people. So now we are created in his image, and we should be obedient to our Creator. And he's going to take us to him for a people. This is what he's telling us right up front what we're going to do. So I'm going to take you guys, and now many of us agree with this. Actually, let me show you. 'Cause I want to make sure we all understand why we got in so much trouble. In Exodus chapter 19, we're going to look at verse 5, to where we can't get away from nothing. I don't want us getting away from nothing. Exodus chapter 19, verse 5, it says, now for that reason, when I bring this Holy Ghost upon you, it says, providing ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, ye should be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And this is what we said. We said this out of our own mouth. We made the vow. For the penny. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord hath said, all that the Spirit of God has spoken, we will do. We made the vow. We made the vow right there. Right here. We did it. Our forefathers did it. And now we want the inheritance. The same, you want your mother's and your grandmother's property and you want all this stuff. The same here. We want this same heritage that's been sitting right there for thousands of years. We want it. Why? You in the Bible, you over here. Evidently you want something. You're not over here just trying to, just hanging out. You over here because you want eternity. So you want to read the contract. You looking at the map. I need to work this map out. How to get to this dang eternity place. Yeah, that's why you're here. So we want eternity. So we can't sit there and say we don't, because we do. But he's telling you, and I'm going to take you to me for a people. But we have to be with this agreement. He said, and I will be to you a God. I'm going to be to you a God. But this didn't even work out. This didn't even work out the way we wanted it to. Because Paul even explains this to us and what some of the issues are. In Romans chapter 9, verse 6. It says, not as though the word of God has taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. So so all of us not paying attention to it. All of us are not doing it. And we'll sit there and go, why? I need more than a penny. See, you got some of us going to do. I need more than that penny. I need more than a penny. No, you got to pay me more than that. All of a sudden, you this big time guy. For they are not all Israel. For all are not of Jehovah's servants. As many did, he gave them power to become servants of God, including them that believed. Believe is come to trust on his name, on his way. This is when the scribes, these writers, and the Pharisees have a couple of different meanings, but one of the main meanings they have is separated ones. So when these Pharisees, these separated ones, saw Yahushua sitting with these people, speaking to them, they thought it was an evil thing he was doing. He thought it was an evil thing he was doing. People over there getting in everybody's business. Everybody is in everybody's business. Scribes and Pharisees. So let's pick this back up over here and go back over here to Mark chapter 2, verse 16. Let's look at it. So as Yahushua was breaking all this down to them, this is what happened. It says, and when the scribes and Pharisees, again, that's who they are, the separated ones and the writers. So when they saw him eat, when they saw him learning with the publicans and sinners, look how you're doing it. The publicans is the common people. Sinners is unrighteous men. When they seen Yahushua sitting with him, they said unto his disciples, how is it that he eateth, including drinking, with publicans and sinners? How is this dude doing this? How is he doing this? See, I'm telling you, let me go somewhere. I just want to go somewhere. Just want to go somewhere real quick. Just go somewhere, because I'm gonna show you something. But they call themselves separated ones. They separated. So let's look at something. In Luke chapter 18. Let's go down to verse 13. I want to just show you this. This is the same way publicans do. See, this is publicans, and you're gonna see something with Actually, we don't want this one. We want 10. I want to go up to 10. And then we're going to go down to 13. We're going to go all the way down. We're going to go all the way down to here. So in verse 10, in Luke chapter 10, verse 10, Luke chapter 18, verse 10, this is what happened. It says, 2 went into the temple to pray. Full thought. So now I'm going to let you know exactly what they was. 1, a Pharisee, a separated one, who feel that everything they're doing is right. The other, a publican. 1 a Pharisee, 1 a publican. The same ones over there telling Yahushua and talking to his disciples, he over there eating with these sinners. He over there eating with sinners. So what happens? So one of the Pharisees and the other publican, and the Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. He prayed with himself. Before I go forward, if that person keep putting in something in that chat, just go ahead and remove them. That's the easiest thing to do if they keep doing that. So what's he doing? He's praying with himself. And this is what happened. He said, God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are. So I'm glad I'm not like these other men. I'm glad I'm not like them. But he goes on more. He said, extorterers, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican standing right next to me. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. And when they did that, you see how serious this really gets. But before we go down, I want to actually show you how these same Pharisees, you're going to see some, 'cause I'm going to show you a video of some. I'm going to show you a video of some. I'm going to show you some Pharisees. I want you to see them. And then we're going to finish it up.
I said, you're trying to tell me something. He said, go to the book of Amos. So if you're at the book of Amos, I want to read the scripture.
May I interrupt you there
yes,
for
sir.
a second? Mm-hmm. You couldn't have done that on an airliner.
No, sir. No way.
Stand up and say, what'd you say, Lord?
No.
Okay, no, yeah. And the guy sitting over there saying, what the hell does he think he's doing? You can't do that.
You can't do that.
No. This is so important. And those of you that are just now coming into these things, in the first place, Jesse and I and others, Keith Moore and Creflo and all of us, the world is in such a shape, we can't get there without this.
That's right.
We've got to have this. We would have, the mess that the airlines are in today, I would have to stop. I'm being very conservative. At least 75 to 80, more like 90% of what we're doing, because you can't get there from here.
It's impossible.
So and this was such a good illustration. I just, the Lord impressed me. That's why we're on that airplane. We can talk to God.
Glory to God. It's true.
It's when I was flying for Oral Roberts, the Brother Deweese, my boss on the airplane, he said, "Now, Kenneth, this is sanctuary. It protects the anointing on Brother Roberts." And he said, "You keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to him unless he talks, because when he's on a meeting, he doesn't talk to anybody but God." Now, Oral used to fly airlines,
right?
But even back there then, man, it got to the place where it was agitating his spirit.
Sure.
People coming up to him. He had become famous, and they wanting him to pray for him and all that. You can't manage that today.
Right.
This dope-filled world.
Right.
And get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right. That's exactly the
And
point.
it's deadly.
I can believe God as long as I want to. If I want to believe God for a $65 million plane, you cannot stop me. You cannot stop me from dreaming. Now you see why the devil tried so aggressively to discredit my voice. Creflo Dollar asking his members for $65 million. I ain't never asked you for a dime.
Plane's 30 years old. I knew it was time to begin to believe God for a new airplane.
Our current ministry plane is no longer usable. We need your help. And I ask all of our partners globally to get on board with Project G650.
If they discover life on Mars, if you think a $65 million plane was too much, if they discover that there's life on Mars, they gonna need to hear the gospel, and I'm gonna have to believe God for $1 billion space shuttle, because we got to preach the gospel on Mars.
I couldn't take him too much longer, but he continues to clap. What he's clapping for, I had no slightest idea why he's doing that. But like I said, this is one of the most weirdest things that they do. And they can sit there, and these men can do this. And these are Pharisees, because they're going to tell you everybody else is wrong for what they do, but their main driver is money. And they get people to give them money. This is why it's so important to make sure you don't fall into those kind of traps. So the same as this man did, he said, this Pharisee, he stood and he prayed thus with himself. He said, God, I thank thee that I'm not like other men, or extortioners and unjust and adulterers, or even as this publican. That's why he's saying this. This is why this is said. And he goes on more. When you look at some of these things, he's praying with himself, not praying with God. In fact, there's another part in here, and we're going to look over here in Job. And go to Job chapter 35. And I want to show you something in 35 that's really interesting, right at verse 13. It says, surely God will not hear vanity, neither will the Almighty regard it. So even though these men, they do these types of things, God will not deal with them on any level. But people thinking, no, they doing this. No, they doing this. These men is full of blood. They full of their own lifestyle. And people are swerving down at these men, holding on to something that they these supermen of God. But you look at this in Isaiah chapter 1, we're going to look at verse 15. As I said, that's why I wanted to pull it. Once I said I need to pull this up. It said, and when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide my understanding from you. He's telling you right up front. When they do that, he will hide his understanding from them, from anyone that teaches contrary to what God said. And it's telling you, it says, yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Your hands is full of this lifestyle. So he put a caveat there on what all of us need to really pay attention to. Not just them, all of us need to pay close attention to. And this is why it's so important. Why I'm saying not them, each and every, this is all of us need to pay close attention to it. When we not holding on to the truth of God, it says, he that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. That ain't just for them. That's for each and every one of us. Anybody turn and do not the vows of God, even your prayers going to become an abomination. He can get you on the simplest things, and most of the simplest things people think they can get away with. Your prayer will become an abomination unto God. And just to look at that again, we're going to use some of the simplest things in the world. The same thing is you sitting there, you made a vow to God that you're going to be separated unto God, and he's telling you, let's not consume this, you're not going to consume that. You're not going to consume no pork, no crab, none of this stuff. Don't consume none of that. But this is some of the simplest things. And they'll say, no, I'm going to do it. God's okay with it. God, he just told you, he's not playing with you. So even your prayers now are abominations to him. He don't hear them. People sit there and say, well, man, my mom, my dad lived to be 104 or 99 and all. Oh, that's all fine, well, and good. He don't take away the time that you're going to have on this earth. He don't take that from you. If he said that from the beginning, you're going to live to be this long, you're going to be here this long. How you get there is between how you live your life. You can get there walking, you can get there in a wheelchair. You can get there just in paraplegic in the bed. But he going to give you that same amount of time. But the main thing is, he is not going to hear your prayer. He is not going to hear you, period. He's telling you, he will not hear a sinner's prayer at all. Because they sit there, same one. People go in these buildings, sitting there saying that they go on what God is. And God's telling you right up front, he is not in those buildings, but you'll go there and say that he's there. Or you're going to take him in there. How in the world are you going to take him into a building? He's saying he ain't in there. So he set some things up, and that's why these calamities happen. We're going to look at that, and we're going to see something. That's why this is literally why this is actually sitting here. So when we sit there and we look at Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 26, he says, I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock you when your fear is coming. So when you have these things happen to you, ailments and all these things of that such, when these things start happening to you, he's going to laugh at you. What you calling me for? Why you praying to me and you don't have a clean heart? Why you praying to me and you made a vow to me and you don't keep it? Why you praying to me and you sitting there and everything that you said, I'm going to obey his voice and keep my covenant with him, and you break it. But then now all of a sudden these calamities has came upon you, these plagues have happened to you, and now all of a sudden you want me to hear you. I'm going to laugh at you. I'm going to mock you. He's telling you this right up front. You have sat there and you decided to go contrary to God. And once you're going to come contrary, but I can do this. So you done fixed it in your head to where you can do certain things. To do these things. And now, when these things start happening to you, you start praying to God. And God started doing his mocking. It's your own dang fault. It's your own dang fault. Come here. Come here. Moses, come here. Look at him. It's his own dang fault. Look at him. Look at him. It's his own dang fault that he did this. Same thing. We can go to the simplest stuff. The crabs, and crabs don't even have veins in them. They eat everything at the bottom of the ocean, and people will sit there and say, I'm not no cannibal. I'm not a cannibal. No, that's crazy. I don't eat people. You ate crab, you ate people. You can take that lie out. Get that lie out of there. The same thing that nourished that crab to get to the size he is the same thing people be throwing people overboard and killing people and throwing them to the bottom of the ocean and everything. You done ate them. Then the first thing he said, I don't need poo-poo. I don't need dog mess. I don't need dung. That's a lie. You eat crab and shrimp, and especially if you eat those mussels and clams, that's all you made of is boo-boo. Those are cleaners of the ocean, a boo-boo. And you are clearly eating it. You clearly consumed it. So now with all these things in the feces and all that you eating up, and it has those diseases and these things that can happen to you. So now they consume your body, and then you going to the doctor, trying to get it worked out. Boo-boo. So he said, so I'm going to laugh at you. Let's look at it a little bit more here. Verse 27. It says, when your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, your distress and anguish come upon you. Now all this stuff then came upon you. Lord, please, Lord, can you please help me, Lord? Can you please help me, Lord? Are you serious? You're a Pharisee. 100% a Pharisee. You thank the Lord you ain't like other people. You have people, some of the holiest people in the world. Almost every other word, almost every 1 to 10 words, they are the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, thank the Lord, thank the Lord, thank the Lord, thank you, Jesus. All that gonna come out of almost all the time. Putting on a game. He's not playing with you. Just because you saying it, you think, oh yeah, well, the Lord gonna be with. Lord ain't with you. Oh boy, let's go down to verse 28. It says, then shall they call upon me. Yeah, they're gonna call upon him. You got crab in one hand, a rib in the other, and you gonna call upon him. He said, but I will not answer. You shall seek me early, but shall not find. You ain't gonna know where he is. Where he is. But it gets better. Because it's right here. It says, for that they hate knowledge. I done told your butt back over there in Leviticus what not to do, what not to learn of, what not to consume. And guess what? You did it. And now you're doing it. Now you want me to fix it. It's the same thing when Abraham and Sarah gonna bring Hagar into the mix. And then later on, Abraham gonna go to God mad and upset with God. Because Sarah told him to get rid of everything. That's good. You got it. So that was the thing that was going on there. That was the whole thing. So when he sit there, God said, no, listen to the woman. Ishmael got to go. What you getting mad for? It's your own dang fault. Abraham, you did that. It's your own dang fault. And then people tell you, well, come over here to this church. Come over here to that church. Come over here to this church. Why? It's by the life of these separated ones, these Pharisees. Christ himself told you he's not there. And these Pharisees, these separate ones, talking about they from God. They sit there, how you living? Oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Oh, well, I see this. How you living? You sitting there, you can teach the word, you can even talk to them about the Bible, and the first thing come out, once it prick them, they'll sit there, no, how you living? What they got to do with anything? Don't worry about me. Just make sure me and you fit this book. Not make the book fit us. Don't worry about how I'm living, worry about how you living. When you look in the mirror, you see one person. So when this same guy sitting there talking about what he do, He looking at what other people is doing. Look at him. Yeah, he's telling you right there. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. But he already, I'm not like this guy. What you worried about this guy for? Why are you worried about this guy? Let me show you something else. I want to show you something. Just coming to me. I just want to show you something. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 6. But we're going to go down to 16. We're going to start there. We're going to start there. Because a lot of us got this issue. A ton of us got this issue. You just had to come to it. Because a lot of us have this issue. And it says there, it says, moreover, when ye fast, be not like the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, and they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Yeah, you have people, you want them to see you fasting. Man, I'm sure, man, yeah. Dude, you all right? Dude, I'm fasting, man. What? It's telling you right here, and we're going to get more into it. It says, but when thou fast, anoint thy head and wash thy face. I'll explain all that to you in 1 second. But we have a biggest issue where people sit there. They want you to see what's going on. That's why when they give, they want everybody to know what they're giving. I do this, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. When I do that, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. This is our problem. We sit there and we do these things. That's why some of us, it's a lot of us have a problem in Sardis. You're going to see once we get there. This is the issue. So he says, wash. So he says, cleanse from your lust desires in your face, your former times in knowledge. That's what he's telling you right there. He's telling you right there. So then when you give, you can give your portion, which is what they doing, as far as these Pharisees, they giving filth. But you're supposed to cleanse from your lust and your desires in your former times. That's why he's telling you that. But when you fast, anoint thy head. Wash thy face. This is our problem. Let's go somewhere. Let's go somewhere else and see something. See, this is where people have the problem with Bible. This is why people have problem with the Bible, because they want the Bible to fit their lifestyle. And you see this here in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8. It says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Spirit of God. So don't sit there and thinking you're going to make him fit something in your lifestyle. Don't think you're going to sit there. You ain't had no time sitting there down, well, God, we gonna do this. God, we going to do it. Please, your ways are not his ways. Your thoughts are not his thoughts. And he makes this even more clear for us to better understand it. In verse 9, he says, for comparing the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Your thoughts is from the ground. His is from heaven. But the first thing we do, we like to walk up and think we know better than God. Let's go back over here to Mark. Let's get back over here to Mark and see something with Mark, verse 17. In Mark, it says this. It says, they that are whole have no need for a physician. Exactly. That's why when he said at me, but those Pharisees, they don't have no need for it. They already think they whole. They already think they good. Many of us already see this. They have no need for a physician, but they are sick. But you're sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Y'all think y'all righteous. Y'all think y'all righteous. Okay, so a physician is just talking about a healer. So as he's sitting there saying, so he said, y'all have no need for no healer. Y'all already know y'all righteous. Y'all are righteous in your own eyes. And as he said this, same thing he said this, and people still sit there and gonna hold him for everything else, meaning this word. But I'm gonna show you what he's saying came to do in Matthew chapter 1, verse 21, just to where we can all be on the same page together. In Matthew 1:21, it says this. 1:21. It says, she should bring forth a son, and should call his name, his way, salvation. For he should save his people from their sins. As long as we're following what we need to be doing, this is what's going to happen. So I had people say to me who believe they are righteous. I had people say this to me who believe they are righteous. And some of the things they say is, how do you know you had the truth? Had that. People say that all the time. And then people come before me. People will sit there and say, how do you have the truth and the people before you don't? That's interesting again. See, the problem is, did Yahushua have the truth before those other people? See, the people before him had the truth the same, but they didn't use it. They didn't pay attention. Not as though the word of God is taken on effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. So the question becomes, what was Yahushua propose? And actually, that part I'm going to deal with in a minute, because that's going to come up with something. But that's going to spawn a question. So I want to show you something. Let's go back over here to Mark chapter 2, verse 18. We're going to go through something. Then we're going to look at something. It says, the disciples of John and the Pharisees used to fast. And they came and say unto him, why do the disciples of John and of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples fast not? Exactly the point. Exactly the point. That's what we're going to be dealing with even this afternoon. So John's disciples, including the Pharisees, they do fast. But the disciples of Yahushua don't. Interesting. 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 I'm talking about like with the churches of Christ and a lot of other people. You can't help because this actually hits them. It says this, and Yahushua said this. He said, can the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? Or comparing they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. Exactly the point. And same thing I shared with people last week, and I did that in a nutshell. So we got to remember, Yahushua Jesus, he's a token. Keep this in mind. We're going to run through this kind of quick, but I just want you to keep this in mind. So in a nutshell, that Jesus or Yahushua is a token. He's a similitude. We got to understand what the similitude is, because you got to see something physical the way you can relate it spiritually. So with that spiritually, it's talking about salvation of Jehovah, which is a word from God, which is the promise that's coming from God. So everybody, we should understand that as one. And we'll sit there and see this here. Let me go back over here. And we're going to look at something. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 12, verse 2, because it's the word that came from God. So when we look at Isaiah chapter 12, and we're going to look at verse 2, we're going to see something. It says, remember, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. But you see this here. It says, for Jehovah, the Spirit of God, Christ, Jehovah is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. Exactly the point. That's what he's talking about. But they don't see what he's doing. They don't understand what he's actually doing. And as they see this going on, so we know Jehovah is the marriage of the children that's from the bride chamber, which is the bride chamber is talking about the offsprings and the followers. That's what he's talking about here. So as this bride chamber, so the children of the bride chamber, these offspring, fast. So that's what he's getting into. But now we got to understand fast. Fast is to abstain from bread. Fast. You're abstaining from bread. This is the crazy part. This is where it gets crazy, because we're going to deal with this a lot later on this afternoon. So what they're doing, they're abstaining from bread, while the bridegroom, the Holy Ghost, the separated body, is with them. No, that's craziness. How can they separate themselves and the bridegroom is with them? I'm telling you, it's comical. So that's what he's saying that. So as long as the Holy Ghost is with them, they cannot fast. They cannot abstain from the knowledge and the doctrines of Christ. They can't abstain from that. They got to eat. They got to continually eat. They're eating from that one tree. The same thing is, I shouldn't even tell people, but I'm going to still share it with you. The same reason why you look at the caterpillar and the butterfly. Because if the caterpillar want to eat from that one tree and mature into where it's going to the butterfly, it's going from one tree. That's why they cannot fast, because they're not getting it from many different places. They're getting it from one source. So they cannot fast. That's why he's saying it. That's why he's even saying it even in that way. That's why we got to remember that, because it's going to tell you right here in verse 20. It says, but in the days will come when the bridegroom, see, when the Holy Ghost shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days. That's the catch. Because many people are going to try to kill the word. Many people are going to try to take this. They're going to try to kill the word. It's automatic. It's automatic. So this is a part of the problem. So it's coming when the bridegroom, and then they're going to be taken from them. They're going to fast and they're going to abstain. So then, what are some of the repercussions from this? They're going to assemble in buildings. When it leaves, they're going to assemble in buildings because it's left them. They're going to assemble in buildings. They're going to start eating the flesh. They're going to eat the breast of all these things. But then the same thing is showing you the silhouette picture. When you're eating the flesh, you're eating the bread, but then the same thing, Christ is not there. You're eating bread that's where Christ is not. So what's the next one you get into? You get into fornication and whoring with many gods. Actually, Paul even speaks of it. Actually, I want to show you this. Because as I bring it up, I do like to make sure people see it to where we all be on the same page. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, but we want to look at verse 5. We showed this earlier. And it says, for there be that are called gods, whether they're in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many, lords many. Exactly the point. Exactly what the point. And this is what people are going to do. They're going to start getting into a lot of different doctrines. This is what people do. Why? Because they're going to commit all kinds of adulteries, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, ill emotions, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envying, murdering, drunkenness, and rivaling. And they become, why doing that? Because they are abstaining from the bridegrooms by fasting from the word of God. And they and they actually feeding on the meats and doctrines of men. But they abstaining, they fasting from God. This is what's going on. It's a switch around on what they do. Let's look at it a little bit closer. We go over here to Colossians and see something. Colossians chapter 2. Well, we're going to look at this in verse 18. 18 just makes it a little bit, help take some confusion out. And it says, let no man beguile you. Exactly what's going on. Don't let nobody beguile you. No man should ever beguile you on anything or anywhere. It says, don't let no man beguile you of your reward. Your reward is key. And it says, involuntary humanity, including worshiping of angels or messengers. Same as me. Don't see, when it gets to angels, we're talking about messengers, do not throw me out of the group. Because you got to test the spirits, try them, see are they rather from God. So do I say, take me out? No, you keep me in the group. You check us. You make sure that we're giving you the message from God. Don't let us give you the message of men. We're giving you the message of men, then we will deceive you. But I'm not here to deceive you. But the same thing is, don't take me out of that box because I'm a man. So we got to make sure we always be upfront with everybody. And it's telling you, so don't let no man, M-A-N, that don't say no man except the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It don't say that. It says, don't let no man beguile you of your reward. That's all of us. And it's telling you, it says, who voluntarily in worshiping the messengers. Yeah. It says, introducing you to those things which have not seen, vainly puffed up in by their fleshly minds. And I'm not giving you nothing puffed up by my fleshly mind. That's why I show you scripture all the time. Because I want you to see why and where you're getting it from. This is the key on what you need to know. And let's look at verse 19. And it says, and not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands having nourishment. Do you see this nourishment? Exactly what I was talking about. Nourishment ministered and knit together, increased with the increase of God. Exactly what's going on. So devices of men have beguiled many, having them worshiping them, vainly puffed up in their own fleshly minds. This is why people will give them money. This is why people will send them, they'll go to the building, they'll do all this stuff with these people. And these men is vainly puffed up. This is why they think they can do whatever they feel they want to do, and they can get away with it. Because they don't have no love of the truth. And if they don't have no love of the truth, and then you sitting under that where they don't have love of the truth, then it's impossible for God to save you. So now you don't have no understanding of the head, but then if you don't have no understanding of the head, which is attached to the body, the joints and the members are one. Having nourishment ministered by the doctrines of flesh, then you cannot increase anything from there. You want to be sitting there saying that you with Christ. Let's look at something. Let's go down to verse 20. We can use verse 20. We're going to go, but we can look at verse 20. And look at this right here. It says, wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ, so that's all I'm saying. So let's look at this as a whole. Look at this to where we can really see what's going on. If we be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, so if you're dead with Christ, then guess what? You in the rudiments of this world, so then you shouldn't be paying no tithes, what they call money. You shouldn't not be doing all these services for this man or this building. You shouldn't not be doing that because you're dead with Christ from the rudiments of this world. So all the elements of this world that makes this world run, then you don't have no ties to it because you're dead to them. But let's look at it a little bit more. And it says, why as though living in this world are ye subject to the ordinances? So why are you just living here? Why are you subject to do these things? Why are you doing them? It's nothing you can say. No, it's nothing you can say. You caught up. In fact, let's look at something. They do this. It says, touch not, taste not, handle not. So they taste and may experience not, handle not these things in the spirit. No, don't do these things in the spirit. Taste not, touch not, want not. You don't do those things. So they tell you contrary things that you don't do. But they're contrary to you because you're doing things of the flesh. You know, you're doing things with the flesh, it's going to tell you exactly what's going on. In verse 22. It says, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men. Exactly the point. That's why I say I'm going to just go on down a little bit, because it's explaining what I want to say anyway. And the reason why it's telling you this is holding you to a certain thing. It's going to make you hold on to a lie. Men is going to make you hold on to a lie and actually show you even better. Even show you better. Let's look at Genesis chapter 3. But we want verse 4. The same thing. You see it here. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Exactly what it says. It says, these things going to perish in flesh. But the commandments, the instructions and the directions of men. And it's not. He said, if you do it, you're going to die. So how do this work out? How do this come into play? How do this actually come into existence? When we look at verse 23 in Colossians chapter 2, verse 23, it says this. It says, the thing which have indeed in works a show of wisdom. So the things which have in works a show of wisdom will worship in humility and neglecting the body, not in any honor, by satisfying of the flesh. That's what we should be doing. See, things in worship, we should be showing godly wisdom. Worshiping, not being proud, puffed up, abstaining from eating and learning of the body, which is of the flesh, because the only things of the flesh is going to be glorifying flesh. So the things that we taste, that we learn from, well, our forefathers on what they did based on the tradition, that these traditions of men is things of a learning that we did according to the flesh. And then people have a problem, the same thing with Yahushua or Jesus, when they ran up on all these men, and then people sitting there saying, how do he have the truth? And these men who've been here for 100 years don't. Same as I get it all the time, where how do you have the truth and these men before you don't? I get it all the time. I get this all the time. But let's look at something. And we want to understand this all together. Look at something, understand it all together. People don't like it, but it's there. People don't like it, but it's there. Reason why? God is not a respecter of person. That's the purpose of it. And that's why we sit here and people really try to understand exactly what we do here. And it tells you this right here in Psalms 119, but we're going to look at verse 100 and why we stand on what we stand on. Actually, we want 119, 100. It says, I understand more than the ancients. I understand more than the elders. Why? Because I keep thy precepts. Because I keep the precepts. So just because I'm keeping precepts of God in here, do that make me more than the ancient? If they not doing them, yeah, I know more than them. Why? Because I keep his precepts. But people, that's arrogant. No, it's not arrogant. I just understand more than them. They know them. They didn't do them. I know them and I'm doing them. But this is the arrogance where people kick in. Because now they get upset because now they have these pastors of all these, well, this is my pastor, this and that, and they don't keep them, but how you know more than him? Because his butt don't keep precepts. What part are we missing here? They want to put these men on pedestals. And they dumb as rocks. So this is why these things happen. And they don't know why when they sit there and they hold people to these standards. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, but we want to look at this in verse 15. Let's go down and look at it a little bit more. And it tells us right here. It says, for that reason, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which ye have been taught by the word or epistles. But why is he saying that? Because we hold to the traditions. See, what a lot of us like to do is hold to the traditions of your mothers and talk about your grandfathers and hold it by that, and then by the word beating over by the letter. But watch this. I want to show you something. In verse 16, it says, now, creator of salvation, Jehovah, himself, in God, even our Father, who have promised us, have given us an everlasting consolation, good hope, expectation, a desired expectation through grace. Comfort your hearts, establish in every good word and work. They just killed all Christian doctrine because they just believe. Don't do nothing, believe. You're good. That's a lie. So these things happen. These things are going to keep going through. This is why we have the bigger issues. This is why the bigger issues, people keep going on. And you see this here even more so. I want to show you another part. Even more so when you look at Galatians chapter 1 and you go through verse 13, and it's telling you a little bit more of what's going on here. It's telling you here. It says, for ye have heard of my conversation in times past in the followers of Christ's religion. Yeah. How that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it. Yeah. This is Paul. But Paul telling you this for a reason. He's telling you this for your learning. He's telling you this to help you. He wants you to understand something. He wants you to really clearly get something on what he did, to show you something to which you should know. And he's going to tell you this, verse 14. He said, including profited in the followers of Christ's religion, above many my equal in my own nation. Why? Being more exceedingly jealous. He was being jealous of the traditions of my fathers. Meaning, as these people, these followers of Christ, is following God, he's being jealous because they're not following the traditions of the fathers. So he did some things. See, zealous is devoted or jealous. And it's coming from these traditions. And you're going to see what happened here. So to show you a little bit more, we're going to get a little bit of history on this guy. And we need this on Paul to really understand why Paul's saying it the way he's saying it. And you see here from Acts chapter 22, verse 1 through 3. It says, men, brethren, and fathers, hear my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue, see, they're going to sit there and they're going to say, no, he was talking this certain way. No, he was already talking that way. But when he spoke in the tongue, see, Hebrew is he who passed over. But then the tongue is the language according to the union and agreement with God. That's what he was speaking. He was speaking their language. He was talking the same words, but now he's talking their language. See, the same thing, you can see a legal document, and it can be having the English words there, but you don't know the language. This is what this is talking about. We got to know the language. The language. This is why it's so important. This is why it's so important. So when you sit there and you see this and you hold on to it, you get what's going on. So now he's going to tell you about this. He said, the Hebrew could tell with them, keep them more silent. And he said, verily, I am a man which am a follower of Christ, born in Tarshish in the city of Sicilia, yet brought up in this city at the feet, at the desires of Gamaliel, who taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous towards God, as ye are this day. So they were jealous towards God. This is what was happening. This is why this issue is. So the question becomes is, was Yahushua more, or anyone, what was the purpose of this matter? Or if it was based on age, or was it based on him keeping precepts of God? See, men can teach traditions of men. They can teach traditions of men. But will it be fine with God? So the answer to that is no. See, which brings back to the same thing where I was talking about the word of God, coming from the Father himself. He has no respecter of person, even this day he don't. So it's based on someone being in the field, in the wrong one. Doesn't mean your knowledge is increased based on age at all. Never have been like that. Because being a respecter of person when it comes to the knowledge, meaning giving preferential treatment to undue weight on certain individuals and groups based on factors that can be with the age, race, gender, social, economic, stature, on anything. It can be anything. That's the craziness. So rather than evaluating their knowledge and expertise objectively, so now we got to see we cannot be respecter of persons when it comes to knowledge, meaning evaluate the knowledge of expertise of all individuals on groups objectively. So without bias or discrimination, it's so important that we be critical to evaluate the information based on evidence. See, Yahushua, or Jesus, the man was increased with wisdom and his stature, which is telling you about his stature, his measure of wisdom. He was a source of study, the wisdom from God. And God gave him favor. Actually, besides talking about that, I want to show it to you. You see, he grew with this. So I don't know if they call him God. How do God grow in wisdom? I don't get it, but you're gonna see it here. We're gonna show you something here in 1 second. In John chapter 3, verse 8, because it's telling you something we want to see. In Yahweh, I was talking to Nicodemus, guy way older than him, and he's telling him about something, but he's telling him about a parable that Nicodemus don't get, because Nicodemus like knowledge. So the same thing is this, what he's going to tell him here. He says, the wind bloweth where it lists, and when they hear the sound thereof, but can't tell from which it cometh, and whether it goes. So everyone that is born of spirit. So you have to be born of the spirit. So born is being brought forth. That's why he's saying you got to be born of spirit. Born of spirit. You got to be brought forth in spirit. But the same problem that Nicodemus had, Nicodemus, he's not getting it. Nicodemus answered and said unto him, how can these things be? And that's why Yahweh checked this old man. He says, art in perfection and beauty thou a master, a teacher of Israel, and knoweth not these things? Dude, you're a teacher of Israel. You don't know this stuff? He's telling you right up front. You don't get this? See, this is where people have a problem with, because they feel that they're older, so they hold this much more weight, and that's not the truth. You know, it's hard to where people going to always sit there and they're going to hold people at a higher standard. And the same thing is, we look at Jeremiah, and you see where he's talking about this in chapter 1, verse 4. It says, in the word of the Spirit of God came unto me. This is Jeremiah. This when he was a kid pretty much in the eyes of many. And because he wasn't in his 20s. So he said, so it came to me. And watch how God deals with him. He has to deal with him a certain way. And he's telling you some things here, we're going to see here. He says, before I formed thee, in the belly I knew thee. So before he was even formed in his mother's belly, he knew him. And before thou coming forth out of the womb, I sanctified, I separated thee. I ordained thee a prophet unto the nation. I ordained thee to be a mouth of God. I ordained thee to be my mouth of God before the nations. Speaking straight up to him. Straight up to him. So he did this from the beginning. Watch this. Because Jeremiah young, he had some little issues, but God said, nah, dude, it ain't about that. See, watch this. Then said I, here go old Jeremiah. Actually, even my buddy even kind of clicked in, got many more of us clicked in this same thing. Creator God, remember, I cannot speak. Wait a minute. I'm just telling you, this is what we do, though. We do this. I cannot speak, for I am a child. You got people out here way older than me. Wait a minute, hold up a second. Hold your horses, bro. Who in the world you think you talking to right now? Who in the world you think you talking to? Lord gonna check you. He gonna check us every time. He said, but the Spirit of God said unto me, say not, I'm a child. Boy, we might well kill that. You might well kill that excuse. You can kill that excuse. I can care less. That's dead in the water. He says, thou shalt go to all that I send thee, and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. I don't care who I'm sending you to, where I'm sending you. When I get you there, say what I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you, it's funny because he said, man, dude, ain't that old, bro. I can't. What's in there? Okay. And what? What you want me to do? What you want me to do? So we got to understand he can care less how we feel, how we want to do it. Once he ordained us, and he already ordained us, and he did it, bro, you stuck. You are stuck. And you're sitting there doing one thing, but the main thing is he want to make sure that you have eternal life. That's the main catch. And he wants you. He wants your characteristics. He wants your behavior. He wants your thing to where he can teach his people. It says, "Be not afraid of their faces." Don't be afraid of them, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Spirit of God. So don't even worry about what they talking about. They gonna trip because they gonna see you're a young kid. But don't even worry about that. I take care of that. I take care of that end. Let's look at it right here. Then the Spirit of God put forth his power and touched my mouth, and the Spirit of God said unto me, "Remember, I have put my words in thy mouth." Exactly the point. Exactly the point. So that's what he did. So when he put those words in his mouth, we're going to say, well, he said, "Not be not afraid." So when he put them in his mouth, he speaks, and he started doing the speech and declaring the prophecies of God. That's what he started doing. This is what he's doing now. So as he goes on, we'll see here right down, when we get down here to verse 10. It says, "See, this day set thee over the nations, over the kingdoms, to root out." To root out. This is why you see what we do, why we do what we do. To root out, to pull down and to destroy, and to throw down and to build and to plant. That's why I teach the way I teach. That's why this evening I'm doing what I do. This is why all the elders here teach what they teach. This is why all the deacons here teach what they teach. This is why the evangelists here teach what they teach. We're here to root out, to pull down, and to destroy, to throw down, and to build, and to plant. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't get no more than what they gonna get. They not gonna get nothing more than what I'm gonna get. We all on the same page. So, to understand that, he said this, and making sure we all clearly understand it. And as he said before, see, people want to come and you want to hear these feel-good messages, and that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose of this. It's not about feel-good messages here. The reason why he's saying that is he's telling you this. In Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 17, "Son of man, I made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel." Yeah. "For that reason, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me." This don't sound like he's sitting there saying, "I'm finna give you some good news." I'm giving you but a warning. A warning that they need to know. So as he did that, we see here, we'll go back and we're going to dig into some history again. In Ezekiel again, we're going to look at Ezekiel chapter 2. But we're going to look at this, and we're going to start at verse 1. So now he's going to make some stuff clear. He said unto me, "Son of man, stand up upon thy desires, and I will speak unto thee." Stand upon your desires, and I'm going to speak unto you. In the spirit of the God, in the spirit entered into me, when he spake unto me, and set me on my desire, that I heard him that spake unto me. That's a beautiful thing, because he's getting ready to drop some serious knowledge on us. Let's look at this. Verse 4. It says, "And when he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee unto the children of Israel." Keep going back to them. You see how you keep going back to them. It don't stop. It keep going back to them. So it's telling us right there. He said, "Send unto the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation," exactly the point, what I told you, we said this from the beginning, "rebellious nation who have rebelled against me, and they and their fathers have transgressed against me even this day." Exactly the point. Just to make sure we got to understand something. When we look at this in Ezekiel chapter 3, we're going to be playing with 3 and 2 for a minute, because I want to pull something else into the mix. So we want to look at 1 and 3. So actually what he tells us, and I want this one too. So when he's telling us this here, we want all this together. So what he said, it says, "Moreover, I said unto the Son of man, eat what thou findest. Eat this roll and go speak unto the house of Israel." See how they keep running back there. So we got to eat this roll, meaning we got to eat this whole volume. We got to eat this whole book. That's what he's telling us. That's why that book got to be in you. In verse 2, it says, So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to learn that book. Exactly how you look at that. He caused me to learn that volume. He caused me to learn these scriptures. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat and fill thy bowels, and with this roll I give thee. Then did I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. Now, just to explain some of this, what he's talking about here is this. So the same thing, we got to eat this book. We got to eat it. Same if you ever looked at that movie Bruce Lee, where Fist of Fury, where he made them dudes eat that paper. The same thing what he's telling us. So we got to understand what that is. So once we take it in our belly, the belly is our storehouse. That's our temple. We got to do it. And then the bowels is our belly. So the belly, and we got to look at that. So when it's saying the bowels, it's talking about your belly, but then your belly is the storehouse. And this roll is the book. And our mouth is our speech that declare the prophecies. The honey is the nourishment and the richness. And the sweetness is the culture and the lightning for harmony. That's all he's saying right here in that one verse. He said unto me, son, in thy belly to eat the whole and fill thy bowels with the roll I give thee, and I did eat. And it was in my mouth, comparing honey for sweetness. All what I just explained to you is what it just said. So we understand that part and getting more to it. So as he's saying this too, that's why he says this here. He said, and I said unto me, son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, a rebellious nation have rebelled against me. Exactly the point. So when people sit there and tell me the same thing is what I hold to all the time, and I can't get short fused on a lot of it, because one thing I will not tolerate is a bunch of silliness. I will not tolerate false doctrine. I will not tolerate any type of Christian doctrine, because it's all silliness. So I won't. So I don't bear it good. And the main thing here, we still go right back here. You look at this, and it says, I understand more than the ancients because I keep thy precepts. Why am I showing you that? Because we're going to a rebellious people who are resistant. Rebellious is disobedient and resistant people. This is what they are. And they rebelled against God. So the same thing is, we need to keep these precepts. We need to make sure we hold on to them, because that removes me and other men out the way, and God speaks. And that takes us out the way. Back in Ezekiel chapter 2, but we're going to look at verse 4. We're going to go down a little bit more. We see this here. It says, for they are imprudent children, stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Spirit of God. Yeah. So they're imprudent. So why he's calling these people imprudent? We're talking about shameless and bold people. They're stiff-necked. They're rebellious. Let me show you something. Let's look at something. I want to show you something. In Genesis chapter 2, I'm going to show you something. The same thing, like daddy and mama or us. So we'll see this here. Same thing in Genesis chapter 2, verse 25. It says, and they were both naked, man and his wife, and was not ashamed. Talking about Adam. They weren't even ashamed. So we see where this is coming from. We are a shameless, imprudent. We are a shameless, bold people. We stiff-necked. We hard-headed. We got to pick up on this. We got to stop playing these games. In verse 5 in Ezekiel chapter 2:5, we're going to be running over you because it seems like they're going to keep running into each other. It says, and whether they will hear, or whether they will forbear. So they got to endure this. But they are a rebellious house. A house is a family. We are a rebellious family. I don't care how we look at it, how we flip it, how we script it. We are 100% rebellious. And ye shall know that I have been a prophet among them. Meaning he's been our mouthpiece. the entire time. I'm talking about we have been his mouthpiece the entire time. Some are here, some won't. So that's why I showed you the same thing in John. I showed you that in John. Because some are going to hear it, some are not going to hear it. John chapter 1, verse 12. We're going to look at two places because I'm going to hit the other. It says this in verse 12, in 112. It says, but as many as received him, he gave them power to become servants of God, even them that believed on his name. But we still dealing with a rebellion because everybody didn't. He came into his own, received him not. So everybody didn't take this. Why? Because we are a rebellious house. Not as though the word of God is taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. Romans chapter 9, verse 6. It's telling us this. Some is going to hear, some is going to refuse. So we look at this and we look at it as a whole. So when we get over here in Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 6, we're going to find out a little bit more. It says, and thou, son of man, be not afraid of them. Same telling Jeremiah, be not afraid of them, though briars and thorns be with thee, thou doest well among scorpions. See how he's saying this? But I'm going to tell you what all that is in 1 second. And he says, be not afraid of their words, nor dismayed at their looks, because you know they're going to look at you like you're half crazy. And you want to look at people who look half crazy, you look at black people. We can give you some crazy, weird looks. We can give you some strange, outrageous looks, like we just going to kill the world. It says, though they be rebellious house. So what he's actually just telling us, these briars, these thorny bushes, and these thorns is these brambles. This talking about people. And he said we should dwell among scorpions. The scorpions is nothing but evil men. Evil men. So as he's telling us this, we're gonna be up against these thorny bushes. These men, every time we say something, they and you're going through their talking, they constantly sticking you. What about this verse? What about this verse? What about this? What about John 3:16? See, they're going to keep thorny bushes. Thorny bushes. Then you got to explain John 3:16. Well, what about this? You know, I can eat that. But God's saying this. Well, God don't change. This is these thorny bushes. Then you got these thorns, these brambles. They want to be chiefs. And they ain't nothing but brambles, thorns, needles. People is good for doing this. We are good for doing these things. But it gets better. It gets better. I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way. Verse 8. It says, and thou shalt speak my words unto them. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm just giving you some side play. But these are his words. I'm just giving you side play. So we look at this and we seeing it here. He says, so you should speak my words, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. For they are most rebellious. See, he's not playing with us. This is what I want you to really get. He is not playing with us. But people thinking, well, I'll start following God later. Okay. Mess around and run out of time. Because tomorrow ain't promised to you. You run out of time, okay. You got an eternity to think about it while you're in the lake of fire. It says, but thou, son of man, hear what I say unto thee. Be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. So he's telling us right up front, don't be rebellious like that rebellious house. Servant of man, hear what I say unto thee. Don't be like your family. Same he did again. So we can sit there and understand where he's coming from. He told Abraham this same identical thing. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, from thy kindred, from thy father's house, unto a land which I show thee. He's telling him right up front, and I will make thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy way great, and thou shalt be a blessing. He's telling you right up front. So he's telling you right here, be not thou rebellious like the rebellious family. But how many of you guys going to do it? How many of you guys going to do this? See, people put in chat, I'm not going to, what you putting in the chat ain't going to do anything. See, this is what a lot of people like to do. They like to, oh, no, this is not me. That don't mean anything. It's what you're going to do. It's what God going to do. You when you put it in the chat, you doing it for as a man pleaser. That's the catch. See, when these events start coming down and these things start happening, when these predictions and these events start going down and these declaring the prophecies, see, this is not the stock market. See, this is part of the problem again. Let me go back here and then we're going to go somewhere. This is where we want to understand. As we winding this all down, we want to just understand exactly what is happening. In Matthew chapter 24, we're going to look at verse 23, just to get a full understanding on what's happening. This is part of our problem. Then if any man say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. This is our problem. We so rebellious, we're going to pay attention to it. We so rebellious, we're going to hold on to it. In fact, more so, I'm going to show you even more so. Actually, let me go here. And I just had to come back here. I'm going to show you something because I want you to see this. You got to see it because it said, so some going to say, lo, Christ is here. He said, believe it not, or there. But he's telling you, believe it not, because they're telling you to go to this building. But he's telling you right up front, we've been running this for a couple of weeks to try to get you to understand what's happening. In Hebrews 9:24, it says, Christ is not entered the holy places made with hands, which is figures of the truth. Because he's in you. But they're going to tell you he's here or he's there. In fact, God is not even in there when you look at Acts chapter 17, verse 24. It's the same thing. But many people are going to be deceived. And they not really being deceived. They purposely, they just letting it happen. Really what's going on. Because they want to stay in the know. It says God that made the worlds. God that made the worlds. And all things there, and seeing that he is creator of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. He's not even in there. But we got to remember, we are rebellious people. And we exhibit that same identical characteristic by being defiant to anyone that's in authority. And that one is in authority, it's not me, it's the voice of God. His commandments. And we become non-conformant with anything that he says. So the same thing as I say, you can even put in that. This is why you don't hear me, oh, you guys got to do this, you do this, I'm your shepherd. Because that's craziness. But you have ones that do it, and these are the ones that people go after. So people, as we become this rebellious people, we become 100% independent on self-will and our own self-thoughts, having this same, where we have this strong desire for pure freedom, this autonomy of being, this weird autonomy, just weird, of being well, and then when we challenge of any of our established belief, and it's being challenged by the word from God, or teaching institutions such as here, showing you the conventional principles, you have an issue. Then you want to go to that building that's going to make you feel good, feel important. You're going to feel good amongst these people. Knowing this, and always remember, knowing that the word of God had no effect on you. When a person who is rebellious and they exhibit the following behaviors, never forget that, because they're going to refuse to conform to the expectation, knowing that God changes not. You can't change that. They're going to always continue to just express their own self-will. They're going to always be defiant. They're going to always be resistant to any type of control that a person says if it's not in favor on their belief. They're going to control what they eat or what their lifestyle should be. They're going to consider what they gonna consume and what they shouldn't consume, which God has said these things can be an abomination to him. They gonna sit there and say that is taboo or unconventional to this day. So the question always comes to this. You're going to challenge the writings that's established in the books of Moses. That's what we do. We challenge in the books of Moses. That was coming right from the mouth of God. And then we built the belief of these institutions saying God changed. So the word of God become the point of being argumentative, debatable, confrontational when presented. See, this is the issue that we have today. This is the biggest issue we have today. So it results, always it can come up the same. It's going to always be non-compliant to the word of God. But we're going to always adhere to these desires and likeness of what man speaks. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. We can't help ourselves. We cannot help ourselves. Let me go back over here. I'm gonna show you something. We're gonna go back over here to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew 24. And we're gonna go back over here to 26. We're gonna get down here. And actually we want to grab this one, 24, right here. So it says, for there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, and so much, if, providing it was possible, they should deceive the very elect. If that was possible. If that was possible. It's interesting. The reason why that's interesting, because he always have to say this right here in verse 25. Remember, I told you before. I told you in the presence. I told you this before. This was told to you before. And only a few people are actually going to make it through this. Because we got to remember what we're dealing. We're dealing with rebellious people. So only a few are going to be saved. And this is why I say what I hold to and what we look at. I want you to see something in Exodus, and we just got to look at the law. Just look at it for what it is. And in the law, where we look at this in Exodus chapter 34, picking it up in verse 7, it's going to tell us this, but it's telling us something that we need to know. And it can be a scary thing to some people, but it shouldn't be scary if you know you're holding to God. It says, keeping mercy for thousands. Exodus chapter 34, verse 7, keeping mercy for thousands. It don't say millions. It don't say billions. It don't say millions or billions. It says for thousands. It says forgiving iniquity and transgressions for sin, and that being by no means clear the guilty. Visiting the acts of sin of the fathers upon the children's children, unto the third and fourth generation, as they continue teaching us these different types of doctrines, keep teaching the doctrines of men. So the same thing is, in a short nutshell, the same thing is why it don't say millions and billions, because it's only 144,000 going to be saved. Now you see Jehovah's Witnesses teach it in error, everybody else teach it in error. Because we got to look at per generation, 144,000 going to be poured out worldwide. We're in all four corners. I do teachings on it, we got teachings on it. To show you everything, the same you see here, the same you'll see in the Bible. We show it to you. Per generation, 144,000 people is going to be saved out of your generation. So the same thing out of my generation, 144,000 is going to be saved. Not 144,001, 144,000, period. Out of my generation. And then out of my children's generation, 144,000 is going to be poured out of their generation. Out of my mother's generation, 144,000 out of her generation. Out of my grandfather's generation, 144,000 out of his generation. Not millions. And then if you go all the way back, to the beginning, those are billions of people. Billions of people. Can't count them. That's why it says it's no number. This is the point. But guess what? A lot of us is going to miss the boat. The reason why a lot of us is going to miss the boat because we like to eat on different doctrines. Thinking I'm gonna get some doctrine over here, I'm gonna get some doctrine over there. People go over here. One of the stupidest things in the world. People like to go through IUIC. Hate to use them, but gotta use them. They believe in spaceships and everything else. And then you want to come over here. Why are you coming over here? You should stay over there. Because you're mixing the doctrine. Just stay over there. Don't come here. Because you're eating on a doctrine that's not going to save you. Because when you're coming over here trying to feel you're going to get some precepts, but then you're going to go over there what you really into and what you believe. So that you need to stay there. This is why so many people are going to bust hell wide open. I don't come here, I don't teach this stuff here to sit there to say, let me see how many people we can get in here. People do that. People sit there, I get up the yang. Sit there, dude, I don't know why you guys don't have so many people over here with you guys. Because it's not for everybody. I don't look for nothing from nobody. Nobody looks for nothing. But the problem is, people don't like the truth. People like a mix. And we not believe in mixing. We're straight. So when you get this straight, if it's possible, even the very elect. Even the very elect. This is why so many people is going to get caught up. And you see this here. Verse 26, it says, wherefore, if he say unto you, remember, he is in the desert is not even a tree there. So if it's not even a tree there, it means it's not even an elder there. Not even a true elder there. He's in the desert. Nothing grow in the desert. Ain't nothing but little old bushes. Ain't even an elder there. An elder is a dang tree. He's not even there. It says, go now forth. Remember, he is in secret chamber. Now they say, well, you got to come over here. We do these signs. What's the sign? Walla, 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 walla. You ever hear them do that? They do all this. He's in a secret chamber. He says, believe it not. But some of you guys are going to believe it. See, I'm not here to sugarcoat saying everybody here is going to make it. I don't teach that because I know everybody got different levels of belief. You don't have to prove nothing to me. I'm nobody. Just like I tell people, look at me, it's Flavor Flav. I'm just telling you what time it is. That's it. And we have to understand what it is. So what we want to do is understand how we can apply what we need to know. How can we apply this? What I shared with you. We're not going to be here much, but let's go on and run through some of this. Let's look at something in 1 Timothy. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, we're going to start at verse 1. And this is what it's going to say. It says, let it, comparing many servants are under the yoke, count their masters worthy of honor. That the same way of God, including his doctrine, be not blasphemed. That's what he's saying. Right up front. Don't let this rock you. But watch this. It says, including they believing masters, believing teachers, be not despised. Let them not be despised them. Because they are brethren, but rather do them service. Because they are faithful and beloved partakers in benefit. These things teach and exhort. And that's what we do here. And that's why I say, you can say if it don't do it here, hey, channel goes up and down. Verse 3 goes on more. It says, if any man teach, exactly what I've been saying, been harping on. If any man teach otherwise, or consent not to the wholesome words, even to the words of our Creator of salvation, the anointed way and the doctrine which is according to godliness, it's exactly the point. Come here, come there. We got the truth here. Pay this here. If you don't pay that, God ain't going to hear you. They're all a lie. It's going to tell you exactly what he's all about, and it's right here. He is proud, knowing nothing. He don't know nothing. Nothing. He don't know nothing. But doubting about questions and strife and words cometh envy and strife and railings and evil submersions. You see what he's doing. So he's doubting about being foolish. That's all they're saying. He's being foolish in this way. And he's all upset because he's getting checked with precepts. So it tells you more. Tells you more. It says perverse disputings of men. Yeah, they're gonna debate. Yeah, I bet you won't debate such and such. Yeah, I told everybody I don't debate. Oh, we can have a conversation. We can challenge what is true and what is not true. Oh, I do those all day long. But if you want to debate, how you gonna debate something that is all true in the Bible? How you gonna debate what is true in the Bible? Anybody who sit there and they say they don't had this debate and they, man, I done debated him, that shows you had two fools debating each other about the Bible. You can prove what is true and what is not true. You can't debate it. Because now you're saying what is God is right or wrong. But it's telling you. Perverse disputings and corrupt men, the mind destitute of the truth. Supposing gain, exactly, is godliness, from such withdraw ourselves. But many people is not going to withdraw themselves. They're going to stay tied to it because they like to stay in the know. So with that, it comes to point to where we get to this main section, in which is really simple. It's really simple. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 3 and picking it up at verse 1. This is why all that to get here. We had to go through all this hell to get here. And it's telling you this. It says, and unto the messenger of the church in Sardis. Why is it telling us Sardis? To the messenger of the church in Sardis. So Sardis is to the remnant. That's all Sardis mean. To the remnant. To the remnant. So to the church in the remnant write these things. Saith, ye have 7 spirits of God and 7 stars, which I know thy works, and thou hast a way that thou liveth in, and your perfection and your beauty is dead. I'm telling you, you can't. That's a tough one to take. In our own perfection and our own beauty, we dead as a doorknob. But he's saying you're a remnant, though. So you hold on to that. It says, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect. I found thy works not perfect before God. And I'm just going to say this. We can ready to get out of here in 1 second now. So I'm going to ask people, while I'm still talking, how many people have found their works perfect with God? Just yes or no. Don't put a whole bunch of stuff, just yes or no. How many people have found their works perfect with God? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I'm going to look at the chat for a second. But I want to know how many people have found their works perfect with God. And I'm just looking, I got a lot of no's coming up. A lot of no's coming up. A lot of no's coming up. Yeah. Oh, shit. Everybody must be my brothers and sisters, because mine is no too. So we all on the same boat. We all on the same identical boat. Oh, we got one that's kind of crazy. He got not yet. I'm telling you, they got to get on that fence. I knew somebody got to get on the fence. Not yet. I'm almost there. Not yet though. Okay. All right. Okay. Say yes or no, but they gonna get that in there. Okay. Not yet. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of us is the same. A lot of us on the same boat. We all on the same boat. So we all in the same line. We in that same line. Have our works been perfect with God? We all in the same. So you can see our line is long. Everybody get that? We in a long line. So we need some help. So we can get the help. So that's what he's going to help us with. We can get the help. So this is what we got to remember. So we got to be watchful. That's why he said, be watchful and strengthen. So here go our keys. Here go our keys. We're going to get these keys here before we roll out of here. So what we got to remember, it says, so be watchful and strengthen. So he that is a watchman. So that's why I say you got to watch who you learn from. So that watchman got to be strengthened in these things. He got to be strengthened in these things. That's why I said strengthen the things which remain. So that watchman need to be strengthened in this too. And it's telling you this. So one thing we got to remember is this. How everybody came. We're going to look at something. We're going to look at Psalms, and I'm going to show you this. Psalms, we're going to go to 51, and we're going to pick up verse 5. Because we got to hold on to something even with David, because David comes up in this kind of mix. It says, remember, I was shapen in iniquity. I was shapen in acts of sin. And in sin did my mother conceive me. Keep that in mind, keep that in mind, keep that in mind. So we got that. So long as we got that. Now we just got to remember how this all works. So in sin did we were conceived. That's what we keep. Now, the second part we want to understand is this. The second part we want to understand is this. In Luke, I'm trying to remember right where it is. Luke, we want to remember this. Luke chapter 1, verse 35. And then we're going to get some clarity on everything. 135, it tells us this. So this is what we need. See, because we need help. We all saying we need help. We ain't none of us denying the help, so we need help. It says, and the messenger said unto her, the Holy Ghost, the separated body shall come upon thee, and the power of the highest shall overshadow thee. And therefore that holy thing is key. That's key. That thing is that child. That thing is the Holy Ghost. This holy thing, which is in thee, should be born of thee, should be called the Son of God. Exactly the point. So we got to remember some things. So he's telling us here back in Revelations. Because we need that. As many as received him, to them he gave power. Keep that in mind. Don't throw away anything that I've already showed you. You got to keep those with you. So he says, remember therefore how thou received, including heard, and hold fast. And remember, if thou therefore shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief. And scare the hell out of everybody. Because if you don't hear you out loud, you know how kids be doing something bad, and then you roll up on them, and they get all bent out of shape and scared. Okay, that's what he's saying. Look at the same way somebody snuck up on you when you were doing something you shouldn't have been doing, and you roll up on them. So y'all should get this. Everybody should know what I'm saying, because I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen to everybody. You're doing something you shouldn't have been doing, and the wrong one roll up on you. And all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. And you, what are you doing? You do that. So this is what he's telling you. He says, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know the hour when I come upon you. That's why he's saying it that way. Because I'm going to tell you, it's kind of funny. It's really kind of funny. But that's what he does. And this is why he's saying, you better be ready. If you're already doing what you're supposed to do, you ain't got to worry. When he comes, oh, hey, let's roll. But if you ain't, you're going to look like a thief. It says, thou has a few ways, even in the remnant. Even the remnant, which had not defiled their garments, and they have walked with me in white, for they are worthy. I don't like the way he's saying that, because you're going to see it's some other stuff he already saying, because we had some issues. But he's being real cool with us, so we got to keep the coolness. He's being cool with us, so let's keep the coolness there. So we in this filth of the world, many of us are walking with God and being worthy of walking with God. He's saying we being worthy of that. We not saying we worthy. He's saying we being worthy of that. He's saying for they are worthy. So we not saying it. He's saying it. So we got to keep that in mind. So we don't ever say what we worthy of. We let him say it. But I don't like the way he's putting it. That's what I'm just catching dice. It says, he that overcometh the same shall be clothed in white raiment and will not be blotted out of his way out of the book of life. But I will confess the way in the presence of my Father and before the messengers. Okay, we good so far. We good. We pretty good so far. But we gotta remember something. We gotta make sure we doing what needed to be done. Keep that in mind. It says, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the bodies, to those churches. So this is the reason why we say what we say. So posting stuff, people will be posting stuff. You see people, you can go on Facebook, you can go all over the place. You see people posting stuff all over the place. Trying to mean like they holy, and they ain't doing anything. They trying to look holy, are they rolling with God? You ain't rolling with God. You rolling with self. He that have an ear, let him hear, that the Spirit say unto the body. As we go, we know the purpose and the reason in when you speak. Not speaking, trying to show that you're exhibiting or trying to express knowledge based on you know something, but you want to give the warning from God. Not trying to be lords or being or anything else, but you want to be an example to the flock. So, and with that, I'll leave you with this. We're going to look at 1 Peter in chapter 3 in verse 15. He tells us this and we're clear on it. We're clear on this. That's why we are examples to the flock. It says, but separate the Creator in your hearts. Separate the Creator guide in your hearts. And be ready always to give answer to any man that asketh the reason of your hope that is in you with meekness and fear. So as we going through this place, and as we going through this place here, we got to remember one thing. We need to be meek as we go through here. They don't want to take it. We need to be able to kick the dust off our feet and keep on rolling. That's what we need to pay attention to. Now, I will be doing a teaching, as I said. I'll be doing a teaching on KJBU later this afternoon at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Central time, and 6 o'clock Eastern time. And we're going to be going through fast, how to actually properly fast, and we're going to be looking at self-righteousness. We're going to be looking at those two subjects. So those, we'll make sure of it and make sure that you're there. So this is why we want to make sure we're paying attention to everything. So I appreciate each and every person that was able to make it. I appreciate every person that went through this, because as we go through Sardis, as it's saying, some of us, we're pretty good at it. We are pretty good at it. We're pretty good at it, but he do have a few things that he has some issues with. We need to get them worked out. Keep those in mind. We have a few things we need to get worked out. So let's get those things worked out as we continually go through Sardis. Let's not get caught up. And let's not defile our ways. So I appreciate each and every person. And I say until next time. And well, actually until this evening. I say until then, Shalom.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Don't let them rain on your spark. Keep it close to your heart. All of the precious